Hello and welcome to Box Free with Stephanie. Today I want to show you how to make some basic foods with simple ingredients from scratch. And I hope you discover cooking box free is fast and delicious. So let's cook together. Today we're going to make apple turnovers because it's apple season and I have so many apples and I'm getting all these kind of rotten spots, and so I love using kind of bad apples for baked goods because it just is a super nice way to use them up. So what I'm going to do is just kind of cut out my bad spots here, and I need to get I need 1.5 cups of diced apples, which I need to put in here. So I have discovered when I'm making apple turnovers that you do actually want kind of nice small pieces. Oh, I need the garbage for this. Because I also need to turn this on, that's right. I'm gonna put a tablespoon of butter in my pan here. And then this is gonna basically make my apple filling. So we'll let this get heated up while I chop my apples. So you want small pieces because you don't really want to take the time to cook these very long. And because these are turnovers and they're just kind of a smaller thing to eat, if you make, just lost one. If you make bigger pieces, it just seems like they're, I don't know, they don't fit in the turnovers quite as beautifully. So, but if this means that you're not going to make it because you have to make little dices of apples, then just keep them big and make it. It doesn't really matter. It's just, I think, a little bit easier to deal with when they are nice and small. And I never peel mine, kind of because they came from a tree and I like to eat them that way with the peelings. And you just don't need to worry about it because they get baked and so the peel softens. And like all my apple stuff that I don't peel, I like the color it gives. So, so that was basically a cup, and I'm gonna do this chunk, and then I'm gonna have kind of too much, which I'm not too worried about because a little extra apple is not a big deal in my opinion. I mean, if I have extra apple filling, I'll just eat it. It doesn't really matter. Oh yeah, this is gonna be a lot, but that's okay. It doesn't really shouldn't matter too much. Yeah, so I have almost 2 cups. Okay, so there I go, breaking the rules already, having too many apples, but that's how I cook. So, and again, it doesn't really matter because you are really just making your filling and you'll just have a little more apples. And I have to make sure that I have enough sauce. That'll be my next concern because I'm not really following the rules and I have too much apple, but I'm not too worried about it. So, and I'm only doing half a recipe because I'm only going to demonstrate 4 turnovers, and the recipe that's online will actually show for 8. So I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. I usually do like 1/3 of a cup, which is, like 5 tablespoons, I think. Or is it 4? I can't remember. I don't know. But I'm doing 2 because I have a few extra apples and I want to make sure that I have enough sauce. So I'm going to add a little extra brown sugar because I have a little extra apple. So I need this to cook and get nice and bubbly. So I'm going to dump my apples in here and let those start to cook. And I'm hoping by the time my turnover dough is all ready that this will be hot. I want this like hot and bubbling and cooking. And as the apples get warm, they create a little more juice, because I don't know if you can see, but it's like super dry right now. There's really no juice, of course, because I just threw everything in. But now it's starting to steam and get hot. So we're gonna try to stick that over here because this is kind of hot and a little bit crazy. And then let that just cook for the 10 minutes or so while we are doing our dough. Okay, so I'm gonna make baking powder biscuits because I love making that dough. It seems so easy, and I just use it all the time instead of, okay, so turnovers are usually like a, like a pie crust or puff pastry, I guess, if you buy it at the store, or I don't know, maybe people make it out of phyllo dough or something. Crescent rolls, I suppose you could do that too. But I don't ever cook with those things, so, and I don't like to make pie crust. If you've watched my shows before, you know I don't really like pie crust. So I use baking powder biscuits, and I think they're so easy to make, and I think they work out just dandy. So you can use whatever kind of dough you really like and whatever you want if you don't want to do baking powder biscuits. But I'm just kind of a fan of the old biscuit dough, and then I've just started using it for all kinds of different things, and it seems like it's fine. Okay, so I should tell you, I have 3/4 of a cup of milk in here, and then I added 2 teaspoons of vinegar to basically make like a buttermilk, because what I'm doing is just souring my my milk, because I don't ever have buttermilk in my house. Like, just never. I have plain yogurt, and you can kind of use that also, but this is just easy, so I just do it that way. Okay, I totally forgot I'm supposed to add more stuff to my apples. I got so distracted. So I'm supposed to add 1.5 cup of apples, a tablespoon of butter, 2 tablespoons, because I'm doing half recipe, of brown sugar. And then I need to add some cornstarch. I'm gonna add just a little bit, like 3/4 of a teaspoon, like that, because I do want this to kind of thicken as it cooks. And then I'm gonna add gobs of cinnamon, because I'm gonna stir this in really quick before it gets all too saucy. And I should have done this in the beginning, of course, but I don't always read my recipe and I forget, but it's fine. It'll be just dandy. See, it's all mixed in. Okay, and now I'm actually getting sauce. Like, I wish I had a glass pan, but I have like this much sauce in the bottom of my pan. Okay, and then I like a lot of cinnamon. So it says 3 teaspoons for a full recipe, but I'm doing half a recipe. So I'm gonna do, and again, that's just because I want filling. Should have just did a full recipe though. And then I could have had extra filling. I didn't even think of that. Oh well, that's okay. All right, but my point is I like a lot of cinnamon in my apple turnovers. So if you're not such a fan of cinnamon for whatever reason, you don't have to add quite as much, because now, like, look how brown my apples are. They're just really cinnamony, and that looks awesome to me. And then I think I need a dash of salt. Kind of a heavy dash, I'll say, for this. Okay, so now my pan is like really hot, and my brown sugar butter kind of caramel thing is almost like not burning, but too hot. So I'm gonna try to stir this for a second so I don't get my nice saucy caramel stuff burning while my crazy little hot plate here cools down. All right, so hopefully that will just simmer nicely. So, okay, now I think I have everything in my filling. So now I go back to my 2 cups of flour, 3 teaspoons, which I'm just gonna wipe out my cinnamon, no big deal. 3 teaspoons of baking powder, about like that. Okay, then I need half a teaspoon of baking soda, which this is my 1 teaspoon, so I'm doing like half of that. That's good enough. Okay, and then I need 3/4 of a salt. Oh, I guess I'll actually measure, why not? I have it right here. That's 3/4, good enough. Okay, so now I'm going to use my little pastry blender. Just whip these together really quick, like, no big deal, very fast. And then I'm looking at my recipe so much, like I never make this stuff, but you know, I don't want to get it wrong. Oh, and this is getting really hot. So I don't know if you can see, but now it's kind of like burning on because this hot plate is so crazy hot. They get really hot and then they stay hot. But you know, when you catch things when they're burning like this, if you stir it enough, like now all my burned stuff is totally off my bottom of my pan, and it's just beautiful. Like, look how nice and saucy it is. I mean, I could have more sauce if I wanted like more of a, like if this was a dessert you'd put on something, I'd want it to be a little more saucy. But this looks really quite perfect because I want it to be a filling. So I don't want like all this liquid stuff to kind of come oozing out of my turnovers. So I do like how that looks. Okay, so then I was gonna do my stick of butter, which this is cold butter, and you have to have cold butter when you're making biscuits. That's like the law. And you can just throw the whole stick in there and then use your pastry blender to chop it all up, but I've really discovered that just cutting it into these little tablespoons or tabs of butter just kind of makes it a little bit faster. So I'm going to do that. All right. So then I'm going to, actually I'm going to use my knife to see how soft my apples are. Ooh, they're pretty soft. Because I kind of want them to cool a little bit. I don't want them to be like piping hot when I put them in my turnover. I guess because I got to deal with them and I don't want my fingers to get crazy burned or anything. So I'm going to just turn my heat off here if I can. Okay. So I'm going to let that cook for just another minute and then I'm going to put it in the bowl to cool. So now I'm going to, what am I doing? I am mixing my butter in here. And this takes a little bit of time, but it's not terrible. And you just want to get all of your butter pieces so that they're kind of small, like the size of a pea. And then you're going to add your milk and then you're going to stir it. And then you would make your biscuits, but I'm going to roll mine out. And actually, I'm only going to use half my dough today because, again, I'm only going to demonstrate 4 turnovers and then I will make the rest later. I mean, like when I am done with the 4. Okay, so I got to get all my butter off my thing here because I like to get everything off. Okay, and this is like plenty hot now, so I'm going to see how this looks. Pretty dandy. Okay, so we're going to dump that in there. See how, oh, it's just so brown, like all that good cinnamon. Okay, then I can't lose any of my awesome sauce because I don't really have that much to begin with. So I am going to take a minute and like just get everything out. Let's see. Oh, so messy. Trying not to get everything all over everything else. But see all that like really good sauce there? Whoopsie, and this is really hot. All right. So even that little bit, like I'm going to want that little bit of sauce when I have my filling in my turnover. So I am going to take the moment and just get it all in there. Okay, so now I'm going to spread this out so that it can cool a little bit more, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. Yay. And see, if you had bigger pieces, because you don't cook it very long, the apples would take a little bit longer to get done. Like when you do apple pie, you know, it bakes for like 45 minutes or something. I generally don't make it very often, but bakes for a long time because you have all these apples that need to get cooked and stuff. So, anyway, we are just doing small pieces and not waiting very long. Okay, then I'm going to try to get rid of that crazy hot thing. Okay, so now my butter is in here. I'm going to stir in my, I'm going to just use this too, get all my milk out of there. Okay, and then I'm going to just stir this up quickly. Then we are going to roll it out. Actually, I'm going to cut it in half first. Don't let me forget to do that. I don't want to roll out the whole thing right now because I'm not going to get them done in time. I'm going to take too much time to make 4 of them, and then I don't want to have to do 8 right away. So when you're making baking powder biscuits, you basically just, you know, do it in the bowl here until it's pretty much mixed, and it's, you know, kind of a hard stir. And then I'm going to make myself some more room. Then you dump it out on your counter or wherever you're going to do your kneading. Well, you're not really kneading, you're just kind of, I mean, I guess you are kneading, you're just kneading for a very short term. Very quick kneading job. Okay, so I'm going to leave this here so I don't forget to just use half, and I'm going to use my dirty spatula to get all this dough off of here. Okay, so now you roll up your sleeves and you dig in, and I don't know if this is in the way here. I feel like okay. So what you're doing here is basically incorporating all these little crumbs, because this is kind of like a scone, you know, it's like a scone batter where it's not like it's not soupy like muffin or cake batter. So you just knead it for a few minutes to basically get everything combined. And then I go around and grab all my little extras laying around the counter. Now I'm ready to cut it in half. I almost forgot. Okay, so I'm going to cut this in half. So you could just make your 8 right now, but we're going to do that. And I'm going to throw that in there. And I'm going to put this over here now, because now I don't need it for a while. Okay, so now I'm going to take some flour with my dirty hands. And I'm going to roll this out into a perfect rectangle. Watch this magic. No, it's not going to be a perfect rectangle at all, but I am going to try to get it to be a rectangle because I want to make 4 squares. Whoopsie, there we go. And you don't want it to stick because you're going to roll it quite thin, but you also don't want like a ton of more extra flour. So it's kind of a magical, like, what am I saying, proportion or whatever. There's my dark spot where my cinnamon from my spatula, I think, got on there. So don't tell anybody that's what that is. It's no big deal. Okay, so see that perfect rectangle? Yeah, sure. It's just fine. It's kind of a rectangle. So I need to get 4 of these things. So it's pretty, you know, it's only like I don't even know, 1/4 of an inch thick. It's pretty thin. Oopsie, there, I just got it stuck. Oh! Okay, so this side's all whacked out, but I'm just going to make it work because that's what you do when you cook. You just make everything work out. Okay, so I am going to get a little crumb off my hand. All right, so I gotta figure out how I'm gonna do this. But I guess I just take a little butter knife. Okay, and these are gonna be like my nice ones over here. So I'm gonna have at least 2 pretty ones, and then I'm gonna have a little wacky one here. But, so what I'm gonna do really quick is just try to make these a little more squarish. Okay, like look at that, it's not bad, right? Okay, because this dough is pretty forgiving. I mean, most dough is forgiving, but I don't know, I like dealing with this way more than like a pie crust dough. And that's just my personal preference, probably because I've never been very successful at making what I think is a nice pie crust. So if you are like a genius at making pie crust, or you can buy pie crust, I guess, I forget. You just go to the store and buy one. Do whatever you want. Whatever is gonna get you to make them. See, so I just ripped that part off and I just stuck it over here. And so I have a little seam here. Oh, and that's when I need a little bowl of water, which maybe I'll just use this because it doesn't really matter. Okay. Okay, there's my perfect little squares. Isn't that nice? They look just fine. So, did I use everything? I guess I did use everything. Okay. So now becomes the fun, like, assembly part. So I have water, my dough, I need a little spoon, or no, I can just use this thing. Okay, now this has stuff on it, oh my gosh. We'll just throw that right there on the counter. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is basically divide my dark cinnamony apple filling that looks so good. Smells really good. Divide it into 4 and put it in the kind of the corner of, oh, that looks like I took a lot. In the corner of my dough. Whoopsie, I didn't really want it to get it on the edge. Okay, and then my beautiful square here. So you can make, if you like your turnovers to be like super jam-packed and full of filling, then you just add more. I'm kind of, like this doesn't look like very much to me, which I'm kind of okay with, but you might think this is just way not enough, which it kind of doesn't look like enough now that I have these huge big squares. But that's all I've got, so I'm just gonna make it work. Okay, so now I'm going to not put that in there. I'm gonna dip my fingers in here and basically go around my top edge and make it nice and wet so that it sticks. And then I'm going to just very carefully fold it over and basically make a little triangle. And then I'm going to try to get that wet edge onto my other half of the dough. So if you really wanted to make it look beautiful, I like to make rustic things. You could do some fancy work here on your little seams, but I tend not to do that because, I don't know, homemade food is nice enough just to have it homemade. But there it is, like cute little turnover, right? Okay, so then we're going to put this on your little cake, what's this thing, a baking sheet. Okay, so now I got all this goopy stuff here, so I'm going to take this as my fold over half. And you have to get your dough wet. Once dough is wet, then it kind of sticks to each other. So, oopsie, and you want to, see now this triangle turned out much nicer. Right here I have a little bit of brown coming out, and I'm trying to basically seal in my filling, because if I have any little holes like that, then it will ooze out, which again is not a big deal. I had that happen last week or whatever, and it just oozes out and you just lose a little bit of filling. But when you have a nice seal, look, like that's a nice triangle too. Okay, if you have a good seal, then you don't lose all your juices. And you aren't going to get like a ton of juice from this because there's not that much that's going to come out. But you do get a little bit as your apples bake, just a tiny bit more. So there we go. Oh, I should have sprinkled them with cinnamon sugar before I put them on the pan, but that's okay. So these, I'm having a lot of seam edge, you could call that. Like if I was sewing, I'd be so happy. I've got a great seam edge, but I'm not sewing, and so I don't really need it, but that's what I've got. So, and this one's really big. I'm gonna have a giant seam here. Like if I was really doing it, I should actually just cut this off. Let's see, if I was really doing a good job, I'd cut that off. Do I still have a square? Yeah, okay. Because otherwise I'd end up with like a really thick seam where all that extra batter or dough was. Okay, then you fold it over, you kind of seal this edge, then you seal this edge, and then you have this beautiful triangle. They're just kind of cute. And again, like I love baking powder biscuit dough because I think it's really easy to work with, and I love all of the different layers, and I mean, you know, it puffs up really nice, cooks really nicely, bakes really nicely, get my terminology right. Okay, then somewhere I have my cinnamon and the sugar. Where do I have my cinnamon? Here it is. Way back there. Okay, so now I do not put frosting on these. You totally could, like do the milk and the, oh my gosh, look at all that cinnamon sugar. Milk and powdered sugar, but I just load it up with cinnamon sugar because I don't like that frosting. So I do this instead. And then I should have done this before because now all my cinnamon sugar is going to like get baked on my pan. And all that really means is I'm going to have to clean it up a little more, a little harder. But it's really no big deal. Okay, so we are going to pop these in my 425-degree oven because biscuits bake at like 450, but for this I like to do just a tad cooler because it's got more stuff to bake. Okay, so I'm going to bake it for like 15 minutes and then we'll see how it's doing Yeah, 15 minutes. All right, we'll be back. Okay, I'm back and they've been in 19 minutes and I think they look beautiful. So there they are. So you can see, even though I thought even though I thought I pressed like all my edges together, they snuck out in a few places. Okay, so I can tell already that they have, I mean, of course, they have risen up and they look absolutely gorgeous. But I can tell that my filling is going to be not as full as I want. So this is where I always kind of mess up my filling volume. I should have jammed them in there just like packed tight so that when this puffs up, then I still have a lot of filling in my turnover. Because as gorgeous as these look with the cinnamon and sugar, like I just think they look perfect. I know that they're not going to be plumb full of apple filling when you actually go to eat them, which, you know, that's fine with me. But if you wanted it to be absolutely perfect, you would have to make more apple filling. And I must just always not have enough apple filling because this is what my recipe says. So I don't know what I kind of do wrong every time, but I think they look perfect. They're so cute. So I'm gonna cut into my littlest one, which is gonna be crazy hot right now. But I'm just gonna cut it right in the middle and show you what I mean as far as the filling not being full and like plump, the way you would find it like in a true bakery. Okay, so can you see that? So, I mean, it's not bad. Like, it doesn't look like it's got no filling in it, but I would have liked, so maybe my recipe, maybe I'm crazy, maybe my recipe is fine. I would have just liked it to be like jammed in there a little bit more. Because, I mean, really it doesn't look bad, right? Like, so maybe my recipe is fine and I'm just a little bit crazy today. I'm not really sure, but either way, they are going to be delicious. So I'm going to try to take a bite, even though I'm probably going to like burn my tongue or something, not so. And I never use a fork like this, but today we will, like the British, be very delicate and mannerly. And actually I'm just trying to get this stuff to cool off. So yeah, there they are, look at that. Like all my little apple pieces are just so cute in there. Trying to get this to cool off. So, but okay, so here's the beauty of baking powder biscuits in my opinion. Like they're easy to handle, they actually like hold up and you can, you know, take them like a pasty practically. It's layers, got nice layers. They puff up and have kind of a very crescent feeling, and they're super easy to deal with. So I like it better than pie dough and store-bought stuff. So yeah, make some biscuits and make them turnovers. Okay, let's see. I love the cinnamon, and it's not even crazy hot because I must have cooled it enough. I like the cinnamon sugar on top because I like my like breakfast items like this to be not so sweet. So if you want it sweeter, you'll have to add the drizzle or just add more brown sugar when you're making your apple filling. But that is it. Look at these beauties. See now this thing, you can already like hold it and maneuver it. It's very tough and sturdy, but delicate when you bite into it. Okay, thank you very much for watching Box Free with Stephanie. I hope you like the show. I hope you make apple turnovers and your family thinks they just came right from the bakery because they look like it. So I appreciate your time watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.